Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 22nd December 2024. The headlines on the economic side of the news was dominated by the policy statement by the Federal Reserve in the US. The policy rate in the US was reduced by 25 basis point, which is 0.25%, from 4.5% to 4.25%. But the global markets reacted very negatively and people were worried. The reason was that the Federal Reserve gave an indication that in the year 2025, earlier it had planned for 4 reductions of interest rates, but now in the present scenario, they think that they will be able to reduce the rates of interest just 2 times and not 4 times. The reason attributed to this kind of a changed stance was that inflation in the US is not likely to come down so very easily. And the reason why inflation is not set to come down in the US is on account of the policy which the new administration, which is going to take charge from 20th of January, which is the Trump administration, those policies would lead to a scenario wherein inflation might not come down. The reason being that Trump has said that he would be reducing taxes and increasing tariffs on foreign imports. Now, when you increase tariffs on foreign imports, naturally that is going to lead to increased cost for the consumers who are consuming those products within the country. So this might lead to an inflationary trend to a certain extent in the US. So it is for these reasons the Federal Reserve was not comfortable in 2025 to reduce the rates very significantly. And this impacted the markets in the US as well across the world. As far as the Indian stock markets are concerned, Nifty 50 was down by around 5%. Nifty mid cap and Nifty small cap were down by 3% each. FIIs continued to be sellers to the extent of 15,000 crores plus, and DIIs, as always, have been the balancing factor, who were buyers to the extent of more than 11,000 crores. Nifty Pharma in this kind of a falling market was an outlier, which was up by 1.5%. The global commodity markets, crude was down by 2%, gold was down by more than 1%, but silver corrected significantly by more than 5%. But even after this correction of 5% in just 1 week in silver, silver in last 1 year is up by more than 21%, but it has fallen from its 52-week high by more than 15%. The US markets were down by around 2% each, Nasdaq and S&P 500 respectively. So the US markets were down by just 2%, but the Indian markets got impacted much more. We have been always saying that China is the factory of the world and India is emerging as the office of the world. The reason, first and foremost, on account of the IT and outsourcing services of India, and now in recent times we all know on account of the emergence of global capability centers. These global capability centers take care of all the office activities of a global multinational corporations, and so many of these big time global corporations have their entire office set up in India. There is an update and a very significant update on this GCC development. Today, India has now 1,700 GCCs operating in India. So 1,000 global corporations have set up their entire or practically very large piece of their office operations in India. And by 2029, that count is expected to be to the extent of 2,200. To understand the magnitude of this development, it is expected that in 2025, 40 to 50% of the office leasing transactions will be for these GCCs in India. And these are all A-grade offices. And in last year, which is 2024, the transactions which has happened on account of leasing of office spaces to these GCCs are as high as 9 lakh square feet to 6 lakh square feet. And these are all transactions with major global corporations like Walmart, Mercedes, Salesforce, and so on. So the entire landscape of service sector in India is now up for a change.